awkward. I was wondering if I should show you my dance moves, but I think we can all be glad that I did not. I'm going to be talking today about working backwards, namely designing APIs or interfaces or apps or libraries for humans. And I should say, my name is Daniel Rowe. I'm a full-time open source maintainer, which is honestly, and I do apologize for saying this, it is the best job in the world. It really is. I maintain... I'm sorry. That's very self-aggrandizing. But I mean, I enjoy what I do. And I think it's really cool. So by the way, feel free to go to my website, row.dev, mostly so that you can find out how to get in contact, if you ever want to. Because one of the things I love most about being a full-time open source maintainer is that I get to spend all my time building cool stuff with people that I like. And it's why coming to conferences like this is so fun, because you get to meet people behind the avatars on GitHub. Anyway, open source is very cool. So I maintain a framework for building full-stack web apps called Nuxt. There are a few other projects I'm involved in. Has anyone here used npmX? A very few people. This is amazing. I won't tell you about npmX today. npmX, scrap the talk. OK, we're going to talk about npm. No, we're not going to scrap the talk. Nitro is a framework for building servers, which you might have come across. And there are a few other things there. Feel free to check them out. But mostly check out pangram.com. It's a game I built recently, and I need more people to play it so that I can see where I rank. Anyway. Play it with me on a daily basis. It's fun. I'm a Google Developer Expert, a Microsoft MVP, a GitHub star, and I recently started working at Vercel, where I continue to work full-time on open source. I live in Edinburgh. Yes. Are you Scottish or just love Edinburgh? It's great. It's a great place to live. It's beautiful. This isn't exactly where I live, just slightly away. But it's nice, but it's a bit cold, I will say. Coming from the UK brings with it some advantages and disadvantages. The last conference I was speaking at with Phil Hawksworth, I was complimented during the conference for the amazing talk that I gave, which I was very grateful for. And as we continued in conversation, it became clear that the person was complimenting me on Phil Hawksworth's talk. So actually, that's more of an advantage of coming from the UK. Anyway, if you visit that QR code, I think you should be able to send emojis if you want to send emojis. I've given you some positive ones, but you can send any emoji, I think, if the emoji validation works correctly. I live in Edinburgh. I have 2 cats. Yes. I hope you're a fan of my cats specifically, but if you're a fan of cats in general or just pets, then that's also good. OK, if you haven't heard of Nuxt, I said it was a framework for building full-stack apps. The aim is very much that it should be progressive, so you should be able to get started with no effort. It should have best practice built in. And then you gradually add features and functionality and things that you want to build, customization as you go. And so very much, hello. It's not distracting at all. I've got to say, with great power comes great responsibility, and I feel you need to know that. When I was building this emoji functionality, I made the mistake of posting about it on Blue Sky. By the way, I'm on social networks everywhere but Twitter. But I made the mistake of posting about it on Blue Sky, and I got rickrolled. As I was building the thing, someone found my endpoint and posted, there are emojis that are the letters of the alphabet. I didn't validate the number of emojis, and so there were these whole rows of lyrics scrolling up the screen. Never gonna give you up, never gonna... So that no longer works as a bypass, so do not even try. Anyway, so Nuxt has got some downloads and some stars. But I would be interested to know if anyone here is using Nuxt. Feel free to scan the QR code, or you can also raise your hand. That is also totally good. This is also just, I favor subtlety. Subtlety is a really underappreciated art. And I just want you to appreciate how intelligent I am, how clever, how thought through. Because I've not given you yes and no as options. I have given you yes and not yet. So the 59 of you who have said not yet are making an implicit promise to me that you will try Nuxt when you get home. That's very cool. I'm amazed. Both the 60 of you who aren't yet using Nuxt, come and talk to me afterwards about how it's incredible. Definitely the best framework in the world. By the way, actually, I don't agree with framework wars, so I am joking. And those of you who do use Nuxt, come talk to me about how it's the best framework in the world. OK, I want to talk about designing APIs for humans. And actually, I think this is a very important point. Well, first, let's talk about designing APIs. Because when I talk about designing anything, we have to say you're designing a product. How do you feel about that? I don't mean product in the sense of something commercial or paid for or non-personal. But I mean something that's going to be used by real people, by users at the end of the day. Something which has, therefore, and I feel cringe saying this, a market. That is cringe, right? But if you think of a market as like the people who will use and appreciate this thing, then that's what I mean, right? It has a market. And therefore, there is such a thing as product market fit. In other words, who is going to use your thing? And does it solve a problem for them? Now this, I feel, right? This is just obvious, right? Yes, it's obvious. OK, so if there's such a thing as a product market fit, you have some options. If you're wanting to design, now this is true whether you're designing something for yourself, whether you're designing something for your team, whether you're designing something for the open source community or for anyone, I don't know. You have some options to achieve product market fit, therefore to design a good thing. And option one is if you are your market. That is, thankfully for most of us as developers, if we're building developer tools, it makes our life a lot easier. We just build something that we want. That is how most open source works. Somebody builds something for themselves, and as long as they're somewhat representative of other developers, then that thing is useful. This is a very good way to achieve product market fit. On the other hand, many of us are not representative of the broader community. That's also fine. And it may mean that we are building something which is perfect for ourselves and not for other people. That's also, by the way, great. I have my own CLI. That is the ultimate nerdy thing to say, right? I have my own CLI, actually. And it does things that I want it to do. And I don't even I don't make it open source because I know for sure it is just for me, right? Anyway. The second thing you can do to achieve good product market fit is you can have a diverse team building it and thinking about it. Diversity is, by the way, not sometimes people feel like there's the touchy-feely stuff over there, and then there's the good, solid, technical stuff over here. And if you want to build, a solid library where, you focus on the technical stuff, and you might have to do some of the touchy-feely stuff just to satisfy, critics, or maybe as an optional extra. But actually, diversity is one of the best ways of creating something that actually works for people and achieves good product market fit, because it expands the market that you were looking to reach. I remember reading the story of those automatic soap dispensers. I hate them, by the way, because you don't know if a soap dispenser is automatic or not. You're like, looking like an idiot in the bathroom. You're like, oh, no, I pull it. OK. But this one actually was an automated soap dispenser, and you just put your finger down, or hand. You put your hand in, and they released it, and then they discovered there was a slight problem. It didn't work for black people. Because it was, I don't know, looking for a color or something, like a contrast change. Can I tell you, it was so obvious that they had a homogeneous team testing that. So anyway, a diverse team is a good thing, full stop, if you want to make better technical products. It's True. And then here's another one, also a really useful technical skill, and that is empathy. By the way, if you really want to upskill your career, this is an age of uncertainty, and we're all not quite sure what the next few years are going to bring. One of the best skills you can have is to become better working with other people and imagining what it is like to be them and thinking about how you can help them. It will help you make better products. It will help you work better in teams. You'll be much more hireable. You're much more likely to go to a higher point in your career. And it is a much better place to be in as a person from a point of view of healthy interactions with people. But it makes a better product, and it makes it much more likely that you're going to create a good product market fit, therefore a better product. If you can, when I say empathy, I mean the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and imagine what they need and want and how they will feel about the thing that you're building. And if you have on your team people like this when you're building something, you have the possibility to achieve the rare but incredible virtuous circle. And the concept here is that when you have something which is open source, and where the people who use it are the people who build it, you can have a situation where people use it, they spot a problem, they improve it, making it more likely for more people to use it, to spot problems, to improve it, and basically you have a circle that will just keep going round and round and round, at least until VC money is involved. And the reason that works is because of choice. Because choice is the most fundamental value of the web, in my opinion. The ability to choose freely, to be unconstrained. And I don't know if I care about this because I grew up with Microsoft Word. Back in the day, for those of you who are young and only remember Microsoft as a beacon of open source, I want to tell you something. It wasn't always that way. The wheel turns. And basically the ability to choose, whether that's your hosting provider, whether that's the library you use, whatever it is I think one of the most important things, both from a point of view of joy and satisfaction, but also from a point of view of building good things. It's when people choose to use your product because they want to and they love it, that you have a hope of building something good. When you build something for people who are constrained to use it, they get bitter, they get frustrated, they come to hate you. You have user count, but that doesn't actually matter if people aren't voluntarily choosing to use your thing. So this is something that happened, just an example, something that happened back in January of this year. I was nerd sniped one night. I couldn't sleep. I saw a Slack message, and I thought, I can build a better interface for browsing NPM. And so I posted this on Blue Sky, and it got some responses. And I actually posted another the next day. And by this point, I was deep in, and I had here's the timeline. I made the first commit on the 22nd of January when I posted that. Or maybe it was the day after I posted it. My slide corrects me. People respond. I open source it because I run out of GitHub's actions limits on private. So I don't tell anybody about it, but except like via DM. And I get 49 PRs in 24 hours because somehow I hit a nerve. And it just happens to be, there's no skill here. It happened to be a shared pain point from developers the world over. And I think it was the fact that npm.js only had light mode. And everyone was like, yes, we have the opportunity to build something different. And they joined in. And then 1,000, that's one PR every 20 minutes merged. If we had no sleep for a week, over 2 weeks. And it just kept on going. And so, of course, we decided to take a vacation and do no work on it. We accepted no PRs. And somehow people still gave us more stars, and somehow we still ended up on Hacker News while we were on holiday. That was not great. But apart from that, we had 40 days of building this project. And the thing about it, the reason that was successful was it was this virtuous circle of there happened to be a thing we all cared about. It was open source, so we could all contribute. We had a welcoming community, so all wanted to contribute. And that just made it better, and we were able to loop. And the community of NPMX, if you haven't checked it out, do check out the website. But really, honestly, the thing to join is the Discord, because the people are the thing that makes NPMX so amazing. And that was the period. It somehow ended up, the joy of it, right? The joy makes the job fun. I ended up making 3,000 contributions in those 39 days, and I'm sure other people did similar. We had to take a holiday because we weren't sleeping, and that wasn't healthy. So we decided to stop it, give up our shot at VC funding, and yeah, cool. I want to talk about designing APIs, not as APIs, but now as thinking about designing APIs for humans. And can I just say, contributing.md wins over agents.md any day. And I'm aware this may be a controversial thing to say, but I hope it isn't. Because this is another way of saying people matter more than agents. And this is particularly true in open source projects. And I would like you to think about success for a moment. What is success? If you're building a product. Now, if you're, actually, maybe I'll tweak it a little bit. If you're building a company, you care about usage and billing and so on. It may be that it doesn't really matter who is paying you and why they're paying you. But I want to think about an open source project for a moment. What is success? Is success download count? What if all those downloads come from AI app builders? Is that success? How do you measure the joy of a project? And for me, I think open source is about people. And I think probably that's true for most people who are involved in open source. What is open source? Saying, look, I built something. You can have it too. What do you think? And the fun is saying, well, actually, why don't we do it together? That is what open source is in my mind. It's not about a license. I mean, that obviously matters too. But it's the fact that it's open. Like, it's not just me. It's me and my closest friends from around the world whom I've never met and only talk to on Discord, right? That is the joy of open source. It's the fact that there's a community of people building it. And I will say that that is what really matters. But here's another reason why, here are actually 3 other reasons why contributing.md is more important than agents.md. And that is, the first one is that intuitive is intuitive. So if an API design works for people, it also works for agents. These things are trained on what is intuitive, what works for people. That is the source of LLM prediction. And in fact, I would even reverse it and say, if you want to help find out what might be a good API for people, you could also just ask an agent. Hey, I've built this lean into the hallucination, basically. Tell me, how do you do this with this library? Might be some useful tips. So intuitive is intuitive. We're designing a new, we've extracted this from a PR I made to Nuxt, and we're pulling it out into a separate library, which is currently called Logs SDK, but might end up being called Gnostics. And the idea is to make sure that every single error message we give in Nuxt, whether that's runtime or build time, has a unique error code. So it can be, I know it's crazy. So it can be looked up online, a unique link to the docs, so it can actually be checked out, and we can throw extra stuff that maybe be too much for the command line or too much for the normal docs, but where we can just absolutely give people solutions for this kind of thing, and then give direct hints right there in the CLI. And why do I want to do this? I want to do this to help developers who are building projects. But you know what? It's also really useful for agents. Because intuitive is intuitive. And if you make things better for people, you make things better for agents. If you ever end up designing just for agents and not for people, this might be JSON. This might be like a weird XML thing that's just in the terminal that isn't helpful for people. But if you design for people, you will produce something that is also helpful for agents. Second, humans use agents. So if you design for people, you need to design for them, no matter how they're using or consuming your library. That's true whatever you use, whatever your preferences are yourself. If you're empathetic with your users, you will accommodate their needs too. in a way that doesn't compromise your own values and principles. And third, and again, I feel like this is something which needs to be said, but teams of people are more powerful than individuals with agents. And I say this, again, somewhat controversially. There is a thing that we all have heard of, the 10x developer. And I would like to know who would like to be a 10x developer? I would, actually. I would love to be a 10x developer. If you don't want to be a 10x developer, I don't know either. Maybe you don't. I want to be a 10x developer. Or maybe if you don't want to be the 10x developer, you still idolize the 10x developer. There are those heroes. Like, I could never be a 10x developer, but that developer over there, goodness me, such a 10x developer. It comes from a study done 30 years ago or something into developer productivity in a company that found that some people in that company, regardless of whether they were senior or junior, had 10 times the productivity of the median. That was where the figure came from. But do you know, it's also been found that individuals, no matter how productive they are, absolutely do not beat the iterative power of teams making small improvements. And it's totally counterintuitive to me, because I want to see some hero developer go into the tower and build the perfect library and come down from the mountain and release it to the world. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to be that 10 times developer, and I want to be the one applauded by the world when I come down from the tower. But the fact is that that is a total myth. And I would far rather have NPMX, where half of the great features, or much more than half of the features, I didn't build and I didn't even think of. And I can't take credit for, because it was the product of a team. And it is much, much better than if I had just done it myself. Much better. Much less satisfying for my ego, but much better as a product. There are a lot of projects that have been released recently where an individual with a team of agents has built something. vNext is one example. There are plenty of others, frameworks. And the challenge, I think, I'm not, by the way, critical of that, but the challenge will be not technically will these projects be able to do the thing that they need to do in a manner that is secure and without bugs. Where that's most of what we think about when we think about, is this a good project or not? The challenge is, where is the community coming from when that 10 times developer comes down from the mountain with their perfect project? What about the team? What about the other people who were involved? What about the other people who had discussions and brainstorms and are co-authors of features or were involved from the beginning? I'm not talking about people who come by with drive-by PRs and improve something, but people who have ownership. It's something you lose if you're just building on your own. So yes, I want to say iterate, and iterate with people. Build with people, build for people. I mean, sure, you can use agents. But that's an implementation detail. That is a tool you're using to make the thing you're doing better. Don't let it change the fundamental value, which is that humans are more important than technology. Full stop. Technology exists as a thing to augment and enable people, to enable personal interactions, to enable what really matters. And I will tell you, it doesn't bring joy to interact with an LLM. As maintainers all over the world are finding out since December, when we've suddenly had loads of bots opening PRs to our repos. Who cares? It solves a bug. But I don't want to engage with a bot. I want to talk to people, because the fun of this thing isn't making the project better and fixing bugs. The fun of the thing is doing it with people. Anyway, sorry, enough ranting. So a few quick practical tips. So first, starting a project. Identify your audience, right? Who are they? And this is something that often we don't do. Me as well. I often just build the thing. I'm like, oh, is this going to be useful to anybody else? I don't know. But first, just think, who is going to use this? Who might use this? Half of the time, if ever someone comes to you, a friend, does ever anyone come to you like, hey, I built this thing. What do you think? And you're like, I don't think I'd use that. And that's because they haven't asked this question first. And then talk to them. I know, I'm coming up with crazy stuff. It's crazy how many people work for months before they actually ask someone, what do you think about this? It is the single most helpful thing in designing an API, by the way. If we let go of the idea to come down fully formed with a perfect idea, no, just get more people involved from the beginning. I mean, I will say, building things from the beginning, you do have to maybe take ownership as an individual at the beginning to drive something forward. You can't design something by committee, but you can involve people and actually make other people part of the process. And of course, you don't entirely believe what they say, because they might think they have a problem X and they actually have a problem Y. And then you pick what you're going to focus on. So I think, again, you're thinking that people are going to, at some point, adopt your project. So what does that look like? One of the reasons Vue was successful was that it had this progressive adoption story. I know it's not as successful as React, but what is success? What is success, really? Is it just the quiet knowledge that you're better? That was a joke, by the way. I don't really believe in framework wars. I think actually what matters is not the tool, but the job the tool exists to achieve, to enable. Who cares what framework you use? We're artisans of the web, and we use the tools that we need to achieve what we create and build. But one of the reasons Vue was successful was that it enabled progressive adoption, so people could drop some Vue syntax into HTML, load Vue via a link, like from a CDN or something, and it just worked. It transformed the page, and it made it interactive. Super easy. You didn't need a build step. You didn't need to take control of the back end. You didn't need server rendering. You just needed to put a little bit of HTML in and a link, and that was it. That was really, really, really cool. And it meant people could adopt it. People like the Laravel community, who jumped on Vue and I still, to this day, use Vue. That's how I came in, by the way. It makes it discoverable, incrementally adoptable. Think about APIs that are discoverable. So types are non-negotiable at this point. But basically, you don't have to use all the features at once. You can use just a little thing, and then a little bit more, and then you can add the build plugin, and actually then you can use the CLI, and you add stuff so people can adopt it. And when you add new features and breaking changes, make them backwards compatible. Pull people with you. It's one of the lessons we learned the hard way with Nuxt. We moved from Nuxt 2 to Nuxt 3, and it was terrible. And I bet there are people who don't use Nuxt to this day for that reason. And those who do use it to this day cry when I mention it. It was a time full of emotion for us all. There were a lot of breaking changes. And build with others. Don't just ask them what they think. Even if you think you could do it on your own better, it is better for you and better for the longevity of the project if you can bring someone else on board and help empower them to feel like they're a co-owner of the project. It will make something that is better by far. I love Anthony Fu, by the way. He's a great example of this. The way that he brings other maintainers on, elevates them, empowers them, sends that collaborator access early on. It's a wonderful, inspirational story. And it means that you don't have to be the bottleneck then when you add new features. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. And then, as you iterate, you pick what works. But let go of the need for perfection and the need for control, and you will build a better API that really works for people. Because you don't know what works for people until you see how they behave and what they do. This is called the desire path, by the way. And I just search Desire Path and look for photos of them because they're so cool, of how the architect thought, this is perfect. And then the people are like, nope. We choose differently. Let people choose, because choice is the fundamental value of the web. And then you build a community of people who choose your thing. Not because they have to, not because they're constrained. You don't draw gates, fences keeping them out. People are center-bounded. They come because they value what it has, what they want to be a part of. Next, we have over 1,000 contributors, and it is the metric I'm most happy and satisfied about, because I don't care. I mean, I do care about NPM downloads. But this metric matters much more, because I don't care about agents using my thing. I want to build with people that I value. Next, built itself so that it could be extended. So we have loads of modules that loads of people build. Anyone can do it. Anyone can extend and expand Next. And that's made it successful, I think, more than it would have been otherwise. Oh, heavens. I have these slides as well. OK, so you can do very cool stuff. And I'll tell you about that later, because I'm really out of time. So Next Fonts is a great example of a module that does really cool magic and is incrementally adoptable. And all these things that I said, you'll just have to trust me on it, because I'm not going to dive into it in too much detail. But basically, what you want to aim for when building a thing is something that people can use. They can extend. They can make their own. They can become co-owners of. And then you really see something that takes off. I obviously come from it from a Next point of view, but you could see all these same things in other ecosystems too, from Svelte to React to, I don't know, whatever you're involved with. And it's something that probably I'm not coming here and saying as total news to you. I hope you already agree with me about this. Maybe it's a reminder of something that you know before. Maybe you really didn't need a reminder. That's totally fine. I would love to talk to you. If you've got questions, feel free to come to me and chat. And if you've got any interest in this, feel free to check Next out. I won't forget that you ticked not yet on that survey. DM me if you want. Also, I have a link on my website. So if you go to ro.dev/chat, I have an open diary, and you can book a 10-minute call with me anytime if you would like. You don't have to. It has been a real delight and a pleasure to speak to you today about something that's very close to my heart. And I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the conference, and also to receiving compliments on how great Phil Hawksworth's talk was. Thank you very much.